Hi, I am Yavar Degani, a linguist, educator, and someone who has spent most of his adult life being confused in two different directions simultaneously. The Culture Shock Survival Guide explores over 50 cultural differences between East and West, how we address each other, treat time, raise children, talk about money, and understand privacy. Each one comes with a real life scenario, and several of them are, I will be honest, very funny in retrospect. It was less funny at that time, but then after it was funny when you get familiar with the culture. Let me walk you through five of them. One, how we address people. In most Western countries, first names happen immediately at work, in class, with your boss. You meet someone on Monday, by Wednesday, you are on a first name basis. By Friday, you are sharing lunch. In East, if a young person addresses a senior colleague by their first name, the room goes quiet. Not dramatically, just a specific quality of silence that communicates. And we will speak about this later. You use titles, family terms. I grew up calling my older neighbor uncle. He wasn't my uncle, he wasn't related, but uncle meant I see you, I respect you, I acknowledge that you have been alive longer than I have. The first time an Australian colleague called their manager Dave to his face in a meeting, I held my breath for about 4 seconds. Dave smiled, carried on. Nobody was fired. I am still processing it. Number two is assertiveness. In Western classrooms and workplaces, speaking up is rewarded. Challenging the teacher, asking why, disagreeing in public, these are signs of intelligence and engagement. In many Eastern settings, the same behavior can mean this person has no idea how a room works. You wait, you raise concerns privately. You find an indirect path to the same destination, not because you lack confidence, but because the goal is harmony, not victory. The result is Eastern students in Western classrooms often seem very quiet and very confused, and they find most of the things over there going on to be rude, and they can't process it, they can't absorb how the students are frankly speaking with their teachers. So the classroom finds them usually quiet, or not intelligent enough, or the one who doesn't understand language. So neither approach is wrong. They are just operating on different software, and nobody gave either side the manual for the other system. That is what this book is. Number 3 is time. In Western cultures, a 7 p.m. invitation means 7 p.m. Arriving at 7:05 is slightly late. Arriving at 7:15 requires a brief apology. In many Eastern cultures, a 7 p.m. invitation means at some point in the general region of the evening. 7:30 is punctual. 8 p.m. is normal. 9 p.m. is fine, especially if you bring something. Arriving at exactly 7 p.m. in many of these cultures is culturally a problem because the host is not ready. Arriving on time means you didn't trust that the host would need time to prepare. It is paradoxically slightly rude to be on time. I have watched Western and Eastern guests arrive at the same party and silently judge each other from opposite ends of the exact misunderstanding. The early arrivals think this is a disrespect, and the late arrivals also, they think that how anxious they were they arrived before the food was ready. Everyone is politely furious. Nobody says anything. This is also a culture shock. Number 4, schools. In Western classrooms, the teacher is a guide. Students move around, challenge ideas, form opinions, debate. The class can look from outside like organized chaos. But in many Eastern classrooms, the teacher holds authority. Students sit, listen, absorb the structure, the point, and the structure just allows learning to happen. An Eastern student in a Western classroom feels like they have arrived at a party where nobody told them the rules and everyone else seems to know a game they have never played. Neither classroom is failing, they are just built on different assumptions about what learning looks like. And neither side has any idea that this is the explanation. Number 5, nursing homes. In many Western countries, elderly parents living independently or in aged care facilities. This is normal, accepted, and often preferred by elderly themselves. It is seen as a reasonable, dignified arrangement. However, in many Eastern cultures, and I would say that this is not a criticism, but a just genuine description of cultural differences, the idea of placing a parent in nursing home is experienced as abandonment, full stop. Children are expected to care for aging parents at home. That's not a burden, that is the point of family. Neither approach is cruel, but each looks cruel to the other. and both would think, how could you? More than 50 topics in this book, East versus West, each with real scenarios and cultural logic behind them. Some practical, driving rules, bureaucracy, gift giving, shoes off at the door, and some personal, like marriage, affection in public, sleeping arrangements, money conversation, and some sensitive, like mental health and gender differences, religions, and some are just quietly wonderful. Why this matters? Culture shock is not weakness, it is not ignorance. It is what happens when you carry one set of perfectly reasonable assumptions into a world built on completely different set of assumptions. And nobody told either side that the difference existed. I wrote this book because I lived it and because I watched the same differences between West and East, and people use different vocabulary for the same thing, for the same assumptions. Once you can name a difference, it just stops being an insult. Once you understand the logic behind a behavior, even one that seems completely baffling to you, you can respond with curiosity instead of offense. That shift from what is wrong with them to, oh, that's how that works, is one of the most useful things a human being can do. The Culture Shock Survival Guide is for migrants, expats, travelers, international students, teachers, and professionals, anyone who has ever stood in a foreign situation and thought, I must be missing something. You are, and now you have the book that explains what it is. The book is available on Amazon, and the link is in the description below. Thank you for watching.